Alrighty, so back on part two of the ranking, and honestly, since it's so early in the day, the plan is to at least get through 11 through 20, but really, it's we just keep going until we're tired. But we left off with Annabelle Creation. We finished that, so now number 11 is Tales of Halloween, and this is so what's annoying is this movie got a lot of bad reviews, especially when I looked at it, because I guess they advertise it as either they advertised it or everyone kept saying it's the spiritual successor to Trick or Treat.
Okay.
And so people got really pissed off when it wasn't identical to Trick or Treat. But at the same time,
It's like separate story. Like
yeah, it's not even the same. Well,
a continuation of those stories.
well, because it's like an anthology. But what's annoying is people going, Trick or Treat was actually scary. This movie is a comedy. I'm like, a lot of Trick or Treat was taken not seriously and was like a comedy.
Yeah.
Like in the first story in Trick or Treat, when he finds his dead wife, she's got like a comical huge sucker in her mouth, and they clearly are being funny when it's like the teacher and his son like killing people.
Oh, yeah, those are
Like they're but even like how he pretends to be a vampire to tries to kill those girls, and it turns out they're werewolves.
Oh yeah.
And it's just like, I never found Trick or Treat to be really like a super horror movie. It was like a goofy, like Goosebumps kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when people rip on Tales of Halloween because they're like, it's not scary like Trick or Treat, I'm like, what are you even talking about? Because Tales of Halloween is an anthology movie where it's almost the idea of like, you could say it takes place in the same city, but that's about it. None of the characters really meet each other. Anything like that. It's just supposed to be kind of Halloween night on the same city.
So do you know how many stories are in Trick or Treat?
I think 5.
Because this one has 10.
Yeah. Well, in Trick or Treat, all the stories do kind of align, because you almost see that it's happening in the same like neighborhood.
Yeah.
This one, it's at least happening in the same city, it looks like.
Yeah.
But
You want me to go through the different short stories a little bit?
yeah, that's good.
So you just remember. I know we watched another, didn't we?
VHS or
Oh, I guess VHS. Okay. So the first one was Sweet Tooth.
yeah. So Sweet Tooth is, and another thing is these are fat. A lot of these are fast.
They're really quick. Yeah.
Where it's just like, the old tale of this kid who killed his parents because they wouldn't let him eat candy, but they were eating all of his candy from Halloween, so he ripped open their stomachs to eat the candy. So it's just a very simple, what feels like 4 or 5 minute movie short.
What did the monster look like? I don't even remember.
It was just like a rotted guy,
Okay.
like a rotted zombie looking human.
Okay, the next one, which was one I really liked, was The Night Billy Raised Hell with
Yeah.
the little boy and Satan, basically.
Yeah, where it's like,
But the plot twist was like it wasn't the little boy; it was just another little.
yeah,
demon.
but they frame the boy and he gets shot and killed. Where it's like funny because they meet Satan, and then it's like Satan and what you think is the little boy just wreaking havoc on the town, but it turns out they had the boy tied up the whole time to then have him be shot by the police. So you're like,
a little
okay.
But I thought it was actually funnier when it was the little boy.
yeah,
So I think they kind of killed it a little bit by making it the demon, but
yeah.
I guess I get it. I just remember one bit from that one that was really funny was the mom of the little boy and the other girl who you never see. Everyone thinks she's really hot, and even Satan was like,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
he
yeah,
said
yeah.
something really funny.
He's like, is your mom going to be wearing that same out or something?
Because the boyfriend said it too to the girl, and then Satan said it, so I was like, damn, that's kind of a funny
Yeah.
bit. And then the next one is Trick. A group of friends are handing out candy, and then one of them gets stabbed. However, this man
Oh.
deserved.
Yeah, so that one was real interesting
Yeah,
because
a little trippy.
it's, I won't spoil that one. That one definitely, I was not expecting it, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, I guess it's almost like a revenge, movie, where I was like, okay, wow. So what was the next one?
Okay, so the next one is called The Weak and the Wicked. It's like 3 bullies, and then one guy who dresses up, and then he kind of like calls on a demon to help him kill those 3 bullies because they burned his parents' trailer down, I think.
Oh, yes. That one, would have been good if it wasn't for the over the top cringe acting.
Yeah, that one
Where
had a lot of cringe
it's like
acting.
a girl and her two goons, and they're so acting so comically annoying.
I do remember the demon looked kind of cool though.
Yeah.
But that one was real short. It was like
Maybe
3 quick
yeah,
scenes.
yeah. What was like 3 minutes?
And then the next one is Grim Grinning Ghost. That's where the girl goes to her mom's Halloween party, and they tell a scary story. She has to walk back after her car breaks down.
That one did a pretty good job of being overall unsettling, but of course it does the most standard. You know, they look around, they're on a couch, and then the camera pans with them when they go, and then the ghost is right there, and I was like, ugh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, the next one is Ding Dong, the witch wants a baby.
Oh, that one was funny.
I thought that one was one of the most funny ones.
That one was real funny, and it's such an interesting concept of like this guy is staying with this like monster witch lady, and is like trying to prevent her from.
Well, he's married to her. That's
Yeah.
her husband.
And he's trying to prevent her from like killing kids.
I love he's like a little guy. She's like huge.
Yeah.
And like real intimidating.
Yeah, and smacks him around.
Yeah. And then she's wanting a baby so bad, but he got a vasectomy
Yeah.
to try to protect children.
And then she just kills him.
Oh yeah. Next one is This Means War. It's the two neighbors with the Halloween decorations.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was cute. It's kind of forgettable, but
Yeah, I mean, it was like, okay, I get the premise, but I don't know. It's just,
I think this one may have been your favorite. Friday the 31st. Serial killer gets Uno reversed because of an alien.
Yeah. That one was just so goofy, but I give it points for being like, you know, well, everyone's thinking like, well, what if?
Yeah.
What if
That's
during
very true.
Friday the 13th an alien showed up?
Very true. It was the little slapstick goofy.
Yeah, very Evil Dead.
Okay, I thought this one was really funny too. The Ransom of Rust Rex.
Oh, yeah.
Robbers kidnap a son.
Yeah.
He's not really a normal human, so.
That one was good. And it's got,
I thought that was a really funny one too because when the kidnappers call the dad seems really happy that they kidnapped the son, and then you're thinking, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then it unfolds, of course, but. And then the last one is Bad Seed. A carved pumpkin starts killing people.
that one was pretty interesting. Honestly, that's one of the ones where I would have probably enjoyed a full movie where it's like, it's so goofy that I could see it being like a full-fledged movie where it's like, you know, to make the ultimate Halloween pumpkins, this company creates super pumpkins. I think I would have liked it more because the pumpkin, you see it biting people's heads and it has like little legs. I thought it would have been cool if it like ate the person's head, dug into their body, and now their head is the pumpkin.
Oh yeah,
I felt like that would have been cool, and it would have been like pumpkin soldiers or whatever.
Yeah. So this is slightly hard, I feel like, because there's so many different ones, but they all have a certain vibe about them. So
I mean,
cinematography.
I would say I'd say it's normal. Acting
normal to below average.
I'd say 2.5.
Yeah.
Scares.
No, I don't think there are any scares.
So if I set the thing as Lake Mungo is a 1, I would say this is like a 2. Story, there were several stories, most of them good. Overall.
3.5.
So yeah, I'll give that for creativity. I'd say 3 because nothing was really like.
I'd even say 2 because a lot of it's like not really monster
or it's like, you know, very.
Well, I guess I like the demon. I didn't remember the candy guy, but if he was good, then.
Only one I really remember is them doing the like Friday the 13th Jason and then the goofy little alien. I like the pumpkin.
Maybe 3.
Standard. Gore. I don't really remember there being that much gore.
What in that one where the candy doesn't he like cut them?
Oh yeah, he's like ripping into their stomachs and pulling out their intestines and stuff.
That's at least a 3.
True. I will say overall, because I mean we're giving it pretty standard score, but I enjoyed it enough where I could almost like Trick or Treat, probably watch it every year.
Because there's so many stories, it's very watchable.
So I'd say 4. Next one is Don't Look Away.
This one's interesting. I was looking forward to watching this one because I thought the mannequin looked really creepy.
Oh, that's what this movie. God, thank God you said that because I was like, what even is this movie? This movie is basically, if you've ever seen Doctor Who, this is basically just the Weeping Angels, and it kind of like It Follows,
Weeping Angel.
um,
Okay.
but it's a low budget movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a movie where you could do low budget, but again, our problem with the movie, realistically, is the acting. The acting was so fucking
really
terrible.
Stood out as being so bad. The main girl, you could maybe say she's somewhat decent to average because she kind of played a character that's like a little spacey and a little bit like, what the hell is going on? So she was kind of like understated maybe, but even hers, like she did a lot of just like staring at, you know what I mean?
Well, and her boyfriend, even before he goes crazy, it's just so like we literally were making the joke right from the get go. It's like exposition. He's just like, good morning. Think about how our life will be in 2 years when you graduate college. I graduate the thing I'm doing. We have this plan to do this. We have this plan to do
I
that.
would excuse that because, you know, sometimes that does happen in movies, but it was just so poorly acted.
Yeah.
You can do that in a way where it doesn't feel so like, okay, I got my buddies to act in my movie, and like, I don't know. The acting was probably some of the, I'd say it's better than Real Evil, but not as good as any of the other acting.
Yeah. So the acting is god awful. The premise of the movie is that there's a haunted mannequin doll. I don't know if they say if it's a demon or something.
It's like demonic kind
But
of.
it's like if you stop looking at it, it'll kill you. But of course, it doesn't really show it, does it? I can't remember.
It doesn't really show it killing people.
Yeah, but it's very, you know, don't look away, and
while you're looking at it, it can't move, but if you look away, it can move like super quick. And,
yeah,
like,
and it's a unique thing if you're on a low budget. But what would have really made this movie work, because I don't mind the mannequin or whatever, it was just the horrendous acting that just took me out of it. Where I was like, you know, you could have been doing cool stuff, and they even did kind of a cool scene in the club where they're looking around, they're like, and there's people walking around, and it'll like, it's still the still shot of people walking, but it's like the mannequin's moving where it's positioned. And I was like, okay, that's a pretty cool shot. But, and then, you know, they even have it where they're like you said, they blink once and it's like all the way over here, all the way over here. I was like, okay, well, that's kind of neat. But, and then the boyfriend being crazy, and I was just like, what? Huh?
Like the boyfriend being crazy. Were they trying to hint that the mannequin can like
right? Influence your,
like, can influence
yeah.
people.
But then even at the end, they're like, oh my God, you know, we found a way to stop it, which is to put it in a room of mirrors, basically. Yeah. So they put it in a box of mirrors with like no padding, nothing. So then two dumbass shipping guys drop it and it shatters and it escapes. And you're like, that was your master plan?
Well, if you remember at the beginning, that was someone else's plan as well, to ship it off, and the shipping container gets like
robbed,
hijacked
by like what,
so
terrorists?
I just feel like after that happened, you should probably hand deliver it to like somewhere,
or just
bury
I mean,
it
or just put it in a mirror box in your backyard, cover it with cement.
Yeah.
It was just so, I don't know.
The worst acting was the boyfriend. The second worst acting was the ex-boyfriend.
Yes, who's just like this.
Really horrible.
He's like,
I'd probably
I
say,
care about you.
Yeah. Another person who kind of had an okay performance was the blind guy. His acting wasn't horrible.
Oh yeah, and then he's a psycho.
He's a psycho.
yeah.
His acting was not horrible, but I'd probably say this is a 1. If Real Evil is a 0, this is a 1.
Yeah, it was very
Oh wait, that's cinematography. Cinematography
well,
was okay.
I'd say it was
maybe a 2.
I'll give it standard only because a couple of the shots I thought were done very well. Acting is a 0.5. I'm being generous here. Scares. You know what? There was a jump scare that got you.
What was
I
it?
can't remember, but I remember you were like, ugh! Like it got you.
I can't even remember. So maybe a 2.
Let's do 1. Jump scares, I feel like aren't really a scare. It's more of like, a jump scare to me isn't a scare because it's just relying on like a surprise, like, you know, where you're like, storyline, plot, 1.
You know, the mannequin, it looked cooler the further away it was. The closer I got, the less cool it looked. the painted face kind of made it look corny.
Where it's like,
yeah,
Yeah.
I almost feel like it should have had no face. It would have maybe been creepier.
yeah, if it was just like a real mannequin.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a 2.
I'm being generous on this one.
Yeah.
0.
I wouldn't watch it again.
I would not either.
I don't even know if I really enjoyed watching it.
Well, when we literally pulled up to this, I was like, "What movie is this?"
Yeah.
So,
Okay, wrong turn.
wrong turn. Yeah. So I remember this movie, another classic early 2000s horror movie. Never seen it before. Obviously, it gives Hills Have Eyes vibes. They made like 7 of these.
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Oh,
vibes.
yeah. So, basically, it takes place in the Appalachians, inbred mutant hillbillies, basically. And then a group of, like, college kids and a guy by himself get trapped in this scenario where they have to fend for their lives from a bunch of these crazy inbred mutant hillbillies or whatever. Because in the intro, it almost insinuates that they're, like, being tested on or something because it's, like, lab reports. But I was like, okay, I guess they're doing nothing with that. But
Damn, I don't even remember that.
yeah, it was showing like X-rays and stuff. Where I was like, is it hinting that like these are like science project hillbilly something like, huh? But no, they're just I don't know, deformed.
Inbred.
Yeah, and so it's very, very, very standard. I mean, just group of people have to find a way to survive. There's some parts where it gets so, in my opinion, a little unbelievable where like the whole set piece is like they're up in the trees, but the trees are so big that they can like walk on them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is like the redwood forest, but it's in the Appalachians.
I think this is a good survival movie though, because there were times where I was like, oh please, can y'all just
Yeah, well, it's weird because it's like, to me, it's like a tense survival action movie, like less than like a horror movie.
Yeah, I think the horror aspect is like when they go back to the that cabin and they're like they see other people getting killed and they see body parts. And
Yeah.
That's pretty horrific.
Yeah, it's just something about it where I was like, I don't know, I'm not feeling a horror movie vibe. It's like, and I feel like a lot of early 2000s movies just kind of went into that genre of like, it's like less horror focused and more like action focused. I mean, because a lot of it was like being shot at or shooting, and all the hillbillies in this movie somehow have the best aim in the world with a bow and arrow where they can shoot, a mile away, perfect aim.
Yeah.
Obviously they did the wait.
What?
Did they both survive in the end? The girl and the guy?
The girl and the guy both did.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say the final girl trope, but yeah, they both survived. It was fine.
It was fine, I did like some of the story and the plot of like the main girl who lives with the guy. She had just gotten broken up with, and all of her friends were like supporting her, and they're like, "Oh, she loves doing outdoors, so let's all do this."
And so she
her.
feels the guilt that like,
yeah,
because of this happening, I brought, we went here, and it's like, of course it's not her fault.
Oh,
but
yeah.
just
But it was
like,
just really touching when she
well,
brought it up.
yeah.
She was like,
Well,
oh.
it's like, thank God you added some depth to these characters.
Yeah, because if you're just like, they had a moment of break where you could like add more depth. Before that, it was just like, okay, these are just random people who are getting.
Yeah.
They tried to do that with that one couple who were like, "When are you gonna marry me?"
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah. That was funny. We're just like, they're gonna die.
Yeah. Cinematography, I like the vibe of it because it's like that time period.
Well, yeah, it's the 2005 shaky cam.
Yes.
So standard. I feel like a lot of these are gonna be a 3.
Well, I mean that if middle of the road is 3,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Acting.
I don't think anyone's acting performance really stood out as being super good.
No, I'd say it was standard,
Yeah.
especially for the time. I wouldn't say really scares. I mean,
It's tense.
yeah, I was gonna say it's tense, especially like when they're hiding under the bed and they're chopping up that girl, and then the guy drops like the shotgun shell, and he's like reaching down. You're like, ooh.
Wasn't there like a thing where like blood was like pouring on them?
Yeah, and they're like, don't let it touch.
Yeah. That was not bad.
Nothing was really scary though.
Yeah, I don't remember being really scared.
2.
Maybe 2.5 or 3.
Pretty contrived.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you
We've
know,
heard this story before.
well, that, but even for his character, where, okay, the hillbilly set up a barbed wire trap to deflate those original people's tires, and then his ass is just like, I don't know, messing with a CD or something and crashes right into them, where I'm like, you would have, their car's in the middle of the road, they've been stuck for a while, like they said, you would have seen them from a mile away, like,
Yeah.
like,
And then he could have just gotten them out of there.
Yeah.
And there would be no movie. The hillbillies, I don't think they looked very horrific, if I'm being honest.
yeah, I was hoping it would be more like Hills Have Eyes, where they look like severely fucked.
I thought they looked humanoid and
Except
like
one eye would be like.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen people who look like that. Like,
Well,
it
remember,
wasn't that
and even
horrific.
you and I said it. I was like, are these supposed to be like backwoods, like, you know? I mean, because I think Appalachia's predominantly white, but one of the hillbillies, I was like, he looks Asian.
Yeah, he did.
So I was like, what's happening?
I think I have a picture of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Maybe it's. I don't know. I didn't think they looked too scary at all.
Yeah. Gore, I think, was pretty standard.
Standard, yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Some of the kills take place off screen. Really?
That's true. Oh yeah, like where he's like, I gotta go pee real quick, and you're like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
And then they just never show him again. I think later on you see his dead
And
body.
even when they're chopping up the body, I don't think you see it. You just hear them chopping as they're hiding under the bed. So.
Was it PG-13 or rated R? I can't remember.
PG-13.
Yeah, God. I can't see myself watching this again.
Yeah, if I want something like this, I'd probably rather watch like a Halloween or, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2.
Yeah, it's not the worst movie,
Not the
obviously.
Okay, VHS Beyond. I took notes on the different
So
stories.
VHS Beyond, the interesting thing about this is almost every other VHS is just an amalgamation of whatever stuff. Now, they started going with like VHS 1999, 94, 80, 80s, where it's like the vibe is like, like 90s stuff.
Yeah.
This is alien focused, except for one of the fucking videos has nothing to do with aliens, unless they're implying that it's aliens in human skin, but it's another VHS movie. The mainline story is pretty, snooze fest. The VHS tapes, there's a couple really good ones, and then
A couple really bad ones.
uh-huh.
And I think one of the worst things is they started with their strongest story. And the first one is called Stork, and it's about babies disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
So they have like a group of cops come to a location where they think it is, but they
Well-
don't realize that it's aliens.
Well, but they do a cool thing where it turns out it's not just cops, it's like black ops cops,
Oh, yeah,
where
yeah.
they're like a part of a secret organization that hunts aliens. That's the whole point. And so they think this might be a case of like some kind of alien or like it's like a monster hunting squad.
Okay.
And then yeah, it's like so cool where
Creepy monsters.
it takes place in a creepy house. Yeah, creepy monsters. The makeup was great.
It's almost like a zombie movie.
Yeah,
way
some
they
of the
look
acting in this
about it.
one was a little cringe, where it almost felt like a video game. But
Yeah.
I
Some
just
of the acting was really good though.
I loved I think for in a little house, they did a great job of filming the set where even if it was not a real house and it was like sets,
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
I was like,
good.
no, I actually believe that they're in this small house, and then they've got like 9 people, and it's like guy with a shotgun, guy with a chainsaw, this and that, and it's real spooky. Them going room to room, and yeah, you find out that it's like an alien stork that crash landed on the roof is like slowly like transforming people into alien thralls to then kidnap babies, and it's turning babies into more of those alien things.
Very creepy.
The effects were good. The stork was practical effects, wasn't CG.
Looked good.
The gore on it was great. Yeah, no, I really liked that first story.
I think that was the best one.
I think that and the skydiving one were my 2 favorite.
The next one is called Dream Girl. It's the paparazzis that go to the Bollywood star set.
Oh yeah, that one was interesting, but it wasn't really. I couldn't tell if it was an alien or a Terminator. It felt like
or
it could.
a demon or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
To me, it felt like it could have been a Terminator short film, and it was pretty interesting. But again, it's one of those where I was like, this shit should have been 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was
because-
way too long.
Half the fucking short film is her singing and doing a music video. I'm like, what?
The music video is pretty good, but yeah, no, it just was so long. I was like,
Yeah, it kept going, and
okay,
then
let's get to it.
finally you get to like, oh god, yeah, she's like a programmed cyborg or something.
I honestly don't think they fleshed it out enough to explain what she was. Because at times I was like, is she demonic?
Yeah, because the first one with the stork, you clearly get, okay, a meteorite crashed from space. This is an alien. Yeah. And this one, I was like, she's either a demon, a cyborg, a robot, because she goes like, you created me, blah, 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 to be beautiful. And I was like, okay, so what? And then when the face tears off, I'm like, okay, so she's like a robot underneath? I can't really tell. It's pretty intense when she's killing everyone in the room, but yeah, it's just with the time they gave to it, I was disappointed with what I got in the end.
Yeah, the next one is that skydiving one, which was very good.
Yeah, so
that's the one that got me with a really good jump scare.
Okay.
I actually screamed. I was
yeah,
like, damn it.
The skydiving one, it's really great because it's about people, about to go skydiving, and then an alien ship shows up. And the plane is crashing, and they got to skydive out, and then they land in like a orchard or something, and there's one of the aliens hunting them, and it was just with the time they had, I felt like they were just going. Most of the effects look good. Obviously, there's obvious CGI, but a lot of people were shitting on the alien design. It looked pretty goofy, but I was like, at least it's something different.
Yeah, I thought it looked fine.
Like it's almost like an insect-like, and it's got legs, but they like bend
I thought
over.
It was scary looking because it was big and fast.
Well, big, fast, and like kind of humanoid, but like insect-like, and I was like, okay. And then
how does it kill you? It did some crazy shit to kill
Well, it would hold them down, and then it would open its face, and it has like a heat beam.
Yeah.
That would just disintegrate you, and I was like, oh Jesus, okay.
It was very fucked.
Definitely one of I give it a huge praise for creativity.
Yeah.
And clearly with the low budget they had, what they did with it, I thoroughly liked. I thought the gore and everything too was like, wow, like it's pretty gross.
I like the component of it's already scary enough they had to jump out of the plane, maybe not prepared yet to do it, and so some people didn't make it just from that. And so it's like kind of scary. I think the one guy was like hooked up to his buddy, and his buddy dies during the descent,
that's right.
And he kind of has to like, after he gets on the ground, that's only half of like trying to survive was the skydiving.
But he even goes up to, it might actually be his girlfriend, and he's like, hey, and she had gotten her face. Yeah, well, her like face skin is like ripped open.
Yeah.
And I was like,
really
good lord.
Yes, that was fucked up.
That was a good one.
And they do set it up really good at the beginning that they're all really good friends, and so it's like kind of sad when they're dying. It's not just like random characters dying. It's like, oh, that's his best friend, that's his wife, that's his best friend's girl,
and like dad or whatever.
Yeah, so it's pretty touching. The next one is the Fur Babies one. It's called Fur Babies.
My least favorite.
My least favorite. It doesn't match the vibe of any of the other ones.
Yeah, it doesn't match the vibe at all, and like I get it, like it's creepy, but I was just like, this has nothing to do with aliens, unless again they're trying to say that those two people are aliens in human skin.
I just didn't get that.
But I was like, because she kept going like, oh, the humans are back, and I'm like, it's so weird because every other thing has aliens in it.
Yeah.
And then this one is just about people who kidnap people and turn them into obedient like dogs, basically.
Yeah, it was kind of gory and
yeah, I mean it was creepy, but I was like,
it's like a human centipede.
This has nothing to do with aliens whatsoever.
Yeah, the lady's acting was pretty bad, but it was like kind of funny. At first when they're doing the documentary and they're trying to expose her, I thought she was really creepy because she was like pretending like she didn't catch on, but then you could tell by watching the video that she did.
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh, that's a little creepy, but I thought her acting was not the best.
Well, yeah, and then you have like the comical, like, we're with PETA. We're gonna expose you. You're canceled, bro.
Oh, the next one is actually my least favorite one. The Stowaway. A journalist woman gets on board an alien ship.
Oh,
I thought this was the boringest one.
So, a couple things. It's definitely the most boring one, but I loved the concept of it. It's really weird because this movie also has a bunch of YouTubers.
Yes.
It's got Corridor, Hallway, or whatever the fuck those CGI guys' name is.
Oh, the Frame Story.
And then that one has Alana Pierce from, she used to be on IGN or whatever, and I'm like, this is odd, but I really like the concept, but it falls into the most stupidest thing, just like with every found footage movie where it's 95% boring fucking nothing, and then the last 1 minute you're like, oh, because I like the concept of, like, okay, you get trapped on a, because even on a regular human spaceship, if you got on it, like, gravity and shit would fuck you up.
Yeah.
And so in this case, she is a dumbass and walks into an alien ship, and then you see the effects of interstellar space travel on the human body, where it starts transforming her. And then I love the idea of technology where how it keeps their pilots alive in space is that it basically keeps repairing their body, but every time it repairs them, it also mutates them. So I like that aspect. But again, it was just 90% of her being like, so you seen a UFO around here? Oh, and then finally it's like, oh god, you get to see like how every time it travels, it just because the first time it does the interstellar jump, she basically dies. It just disintegrates her body, and it takes a long time for it to rebuild her, but it starts rebuilding her as a monster alien. And I just really like the concept, but I just really fucking hate that it took so long to get to that point.
Yeah, I thought it was so boring. I could not stand it. Some of the even cool things of like how the ship looked and stuff, I was like, eh.
Well, they kind of copied like The Day the Earth Stood Still, where it's supposed to be like an organic ship where it just looks like a ball of moss or whatever. Nothing, and it was, to me, just kind of felt like a cheap way to be like, well, we couldn't really design a cool ass ship, so it's just like a sphere with a black door with curtains.
What did the alien look like? I don't remember.
You don't ever get to really see it.
Okay.
It's only for.
Doesn't he go into some chamber?
Well, you can see that it's going into hypersleep because they're about to launch. Okay. That's why she's like, wait.
So cinematography, what do you think?
1. Just because it's, well, okay.
It's hard because there's so many different.
It's found footage. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh wait, was that the last one?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So the other thing is the frame story, which is just, the premise is just a Redditor claims to have evidence of an alien encounter. This is documented.
Yeah. The main story was boring.
Very boring.
So I'll give it props for the skydiving one and the cop one. So
I think 2.5 maximum.
Yeah, just because the rest sucked. Acting also hit or miss. So, because even as much as I like the skydiving one, some of the acting in the beginning was really cringe. But
over the top.
It could also be, extroverted people might talk like that, or they're really cringe and they're like, oh my god, my friend, my best friend, oh my god. Yeah. So, I'm just gonna do that.
I agree. I think it's gotta be like a 3.
I'd say standard. Dog one, you're right. It's, it's like body horror. Like, as much as I hated it, the concept is kind of scary. Like an animal lover who kidnaps people and grafts fucking animal parts onto their body. The skydiving one, the first one with like the monster squad. So,
Okay, I agree.
And again, since this is an overall, the stork alien was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Didn't really understand the cyborg.
The design in the first one was cool too.
Yeah, the stork?
No, like the little gremlins. Like people who had been mutated.
Oh, yeah. And then the alien in the skydiving one with the weird legs. Do that. Yeah, I do wish the one with that journalist girl, we could have seen more of the alien, because you only kind of get to see like its shoulder. Very gory. I'd say not as bad as Terrifier.
What's Terrifier? 5? Yeah, you think I saw 5.
God, where's my... Okay.
Terrifier 2 got a 5.
Okay, I would say this is 3.5 then.
Yeah, I agree.
I would watch this again, but I would skip the fucking dog one, especially.
I'd skip the dog one and the alien ship one.
Yeah, it's really just to show the stork one and the skydiving one.
2.5.
Yeah. Very middle of the road here. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Possum. Definitely wouldn't say this is a horror movie, although whenever you Google, horror movies, ooh, this movie does come up. It's definitely more like a symbolic thriller.
It's artsy.
Very artsy. Definitely shouldn't be as long as it is. It should definitely, I think it's like an hour and a half. It should have only been an hour to maybe even 45 minutes. It's about a guy who used to be a puppeteer but is now not. He's like infamous, kind of goes back home to his home where his uncle lives, and they start seeing that like a young boy went missing, so they're trying to. He's like worried about that, and you start going like, is he crazy? Did he actually do something where like he might be the killer? What is it? Because the police start showing up at his door, and it's definitely a very metaphorical symbolic movie. But unlike most movies that try to be that fucking stupid, this movie is not like, because I really hate when artsy ass movies where everything's a symbolic whatever, where it's so niche where the director is like, oh well, I get it. Yeah. But then you as an audience are like, I don't. I really strongly dislike when people are like, oh well, that's your fault. It's a movie that you have to watch 3 or 4 times to understand. I shouldn't have to watch a movie 3 or 4 times to understand it. I should be able to watch it once and go, I get it.
Yeah. And, that's a good point, because when you watch it, the movie feels like you're watching a nightmare. You're watching someone's nightmare. And you kind of think when you're watching it, like, is this going to lead up to me understanding what these things represent? Yeah. And you kind of, I don't know, for a while I was scared it wasn't going to. But then at the end, they do basically kind of, without knocking you over the head with it, they explain what that symbolism meant.
And so I can appreciate the movie that, for it scares you at first, or it worried both of us, where I'm like, oh god, is it just gonna end and it was all metaphor? But no, at the end it's blatantly obvious what the story was and what was happening. And I can watch it once and go, oh okay. And you can see what the possum, the puppet, represents. And
I would even argue you could probably watch it again and find maybe different meanings, which is kind of a good way to like.
You probably could, except for the ending kind of tells you what it was. Yeah. But at the same time, I think you could still.
The possum could represent a lot of stuff, though.
Well, this is a movie where I would want to rewatch it, just because like it was. Again, it was artsy enough where it didn't piss me off, where I'm like, okay, I personally would like to rewatch this to just go like appreciate it. I'd probably appreciate it more. Yeah. Watching it again.
There's a couple of things I don't know if they fleshed out, like the burning room with the mom and the balloons. I don't know if that was fully fleshed out. We can like interpret what we think it means, but I don't know if they.
Yeah, I don't know if the uncle killed them or something, or.
Yeah, because it says he was his parents died, and his uncle took him in. Yeah. And so you kind of think it's like maybe representing like his life he had before he had to be with the uncle, but then there's a fire. Like I feel like you could interpret other things from it.
Well, that and the just like the possum representing like his guilt of not turning in his uncle when he knew that his uncle was like molesting and killing kids.
But also, his uncle was molesting him.
Yeah.
And so it could also be like how the pain from that, he, as much as he tried to get rid of it, he never could.
And so even when the uncle's like, got the fire going, he's like, oh, throw the puppet in. But then when he burns the puppet, it comes back. Yeah. Because it's like, he's not really getting over his trauma. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I can appreciate that you're not talking down to me like I'm fucking stupid. Yeah. It's enough symbolism where I go, okay.
I do think, without even thinking about the metaphors of what's happening in the movie, how the movie looked is very beautiful. Like, it's very, the puppet is very creepy. Yeah. I was unnerved by it. The landscapes the guy's in is a little unnerving. It's
which is, desolate. Like it's like the eastern part of Great Britain, where a lot of the city parts look like shit. Yeah. But then a lot of the landscapes look kind of pretty. But they did so many good
like a military aspect, like abandoned military bases and stuff.
But it was just such a good like like the cinematography, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. No music really, just like subtle like hums almost.
Yeah.
And yeah, I felt the guy's acting was good. I believed him as this just like tortured soul.
Yeah.
And then the
evil
creepy uncle, yeah.
He did great as well.
Yeah, and this is the design of the possum, this crab spider-legged raggedy thing with this creepy white iRobot face.
Yeah.
And even at the end when he's like tripping balls and it's like starting to move and follow him around, I was like, oh god.
Very creepy. And I do like how they kind of unveil what happened, because when you're watching it for the first time, you kind of think, is he the murderer? And he, you know what I mean? You do start thinking that. And then I kind of had feelings of like his uncle. There's something wrong with his uncle, but what is the uncle real? Is the uncle even like actually there with him? And so at the end when they kind of tell you what the whole thing is, it's like, oh, you know, I don't know if it was fully like you could have guessed it at the beginning.
Well, but you could almost say, because, you know, in my mind I'm thinking, oh, well, at the end it kind of proves the uncle was real because he kills him, but the kid that he saves doesn't really acknowledge the dead body either. He just runs off, where you could even say that he actually was imagining his, like, even his uncle was fake, and him killing his uncle was him, like, imagining, like, he's finally
his
got
nature,
well, but no, I'm saying, like, he's like, he finally overcame the trauma of his uncle by like killing the manifestation of him.
Yeah.
And then that's why the boy is still scared of that guy, because he's probably like, oh, you kidnapped me, like, you're a fucking psycho. And it could be that the main character was trying to get over
that too, because we see our main character see that boy on the bus.
Yeah.
Like one of the very first scenes. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and so it was just a really good, like, you know, and I hate when people like only like, there's the people who are like, I absolutely despise artsy movies, but then on the other hand, there's those
that's almost us sometimes.
Yeah, but there's those stupid ass movie critics, especially on YouTube, that I sometimes watch, where they're so far up their own ass that they're like, only would watch movies like this.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't really like watching movies like this.
Yeah.
But this was definitely an exception where, again, I wish it was shorter,
I do.
but I could definitely see myself watching it again. And it was such a unique vibe.
Yeah, you know, last year when we did this, and we watched, what is it called? With the claymation, what was it called again?
Mad God.
Like, when we watched Mad God, I wouldn't say it was the scariest, but I felt the most affected by it after we had watched all the movies. And right now, I think this movie affected me the most when we watched it. But I wouldn't say it's the scariest, so it's like a weird kind of like...
I mean, cinematography, I'd give like a 4.
I think it needs 4.5 or...
Oh yeah, if I gave When Evil Lurks that...
This might need 5.
Yeah. Acting, I loved it.
Yeah.
I thought they did a good job. Scares,
not very scary. It's
I'd
kind of like
2.
minor, like when the thing is like
Yeah.
crawling up on him. A 2 would probably be storyline.
I thought it was well done. Again, I just needed to be a little shorter. The puppet, really fucking creepy. I'd give it a 4.
Yeah. Gore, there's no gore. I'd watch it again for sure.
Absolutely.
Try to maybe understand it even more.
It's 5.
Is that the winner so far?
Yes.
Whoa, okay.
And then
Okay, Watcher. You didn't
The
even
Watcher.
remember this one.
Yeah, I didn't remember this at first, but yeah, this has the girl from Long Legs, and it's basically a movie where this couple moves to
I can't remember.
Romania,
Okay.
and she starts noticing that there's a guy in the apartment across the street that just is staring at her, and so it's like this creepy mystery of like, who is this guy that keeps staring, and like, is he following me?
Actually staring even?
And for a while, they do a good job where you're like, this is really creepy. And of course, her husband, who's always working, is like, you know, oh, you're fucking crazy, whatever.
He gaslit her like crazy.
Yeah, and, you know, she goes to the theater, and then a guy sits behind her and is like breathing on her. She goes to the store, and then the guy is staring at her and following her around. And then when they get a picture of him, and then, you know, they do like a Uno reverse thing where he actually calls the cops on her and is like, she's stalking me.
Yeah.
And she's like, well,
'Cause
hold
she
up.
does go and stalk him,
Yeah,
but-
she goes to his door with another guy, her like neighbor's boyfriend, and is like, he's like, I'll fucking kill you, and it's, I thought it was really tense and really creepy, but the moment they showed the neighbor, like the guy across the street who's been staring at her, and it's the guy from fucking Game of Thrones, Pacific Rim, all that, I was like, it's him, because there's no way you're hiring this famous British actor and not have him be more than like that.
Yeah.
So it gave it away. This is a movie where they should have hired some no-name actor so that you would have been like, oh yeah, it's nobody. I don't recognize that guy.
I did think partway through, I was like, I feel like they're setting it up where it's like the guy watching is trying to protect her from maybe her husband, who's actually the killer.
Oh, that's right.
Or
Yeah,
like
yeah.
someone else who's the killer. I was like, is this like a Uno reverse where it's like the watcher is actually trying to help? Because they have that moment on the bus where I was like, I can't tell.
Yeah.
And obviously he is at the end, but.
Well, and then, there's kind of a eye roll part where they go into the neighbor's apartment because the main girl thinks she's in trouble. And she's like thinking that there's someone in the closet. And I'm like, bro, you got like 8 people with you.
Just
open the damn closet.
Yeah.
Because later he's like, I was in there. And, I was holding her. And you're like, I just feel like if you're already batshit crazy enough to bust down the door to your neighbor because you think she's in trouble, you're really not going to search her apartment. You're just going to fucking leave.
I know. Yeah.
Okay. And so it's just like very,
that's kind of eye roll.
That's very convenient. And then, of course, when you find out, of course, it is him. And they do the most obvious setup payoff where earlier her neighbor is like, I've got a gun in here. Ooh. And I was like, that's coming into play. Yeah. That's coming into play later. I can tell you that.
Okay, but something about this movie that I gotta say is it's probably the most satisfying movie that we watched.
Yes.
Because her husband gaslights her. She starts thinking she's crazy. And then they go to this office party with her husband.
That's right.
And she can't speak the language super well. And so not only is he gaslighting her whenever she brings it up, but at this party with his other like Romanian business like coworkers, he's like, oh yeah, she's like crazy. And then what does he say? He says like,
he makes
spider is gonna
he makes a joke that like she's gonna spend her free time with this like rapist murderer or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she actually can understand enough that he made that joke. And he's like, I don't know why you're acting like, and of course he's in front of his boss or whatever. He's like, okay, calm down. I don't know why you're acting this way.
Yeah.
And she's like, did you for real just make that joke?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know why you're taking it so seriously. And it's like, so your wife who's been concerned that she feels like someone's watching her, which women in your neighborhood have been getting raped and murdered, and then you have the audacity, you have the audacity to make that joke.
Yeah. And also, this woman literally left her country to come live with you in this country for you to work all the fucking time. Yeah. And then you have, like you said, the audacity to make that joke, and he thinks she won't understand it, but she's secretly been learning the language.
Yeah. And then he confronts her and is like, I just don't know what to do with you anymore.
I know. Yeah. And I was like, ugh. And so when the watcher comes to actually kill her, it's kind of satisfying because it's like, she was fucking right.
Yeah.
And she does an Uno reverse on him and kills him, but then she sees the husband who was like basically didn't help her escape at all. And it's just like really satisfying.
Well, and never even believed her once.
No, yeah. And so when you see like the guy who she was concerned about dead, and she's covered in blood, she had almost been killed. Yeah. And the husband is like the first one to see it. It's so satisfying.
Well, and it's satisfying because she even played dead where he cut her throat a little bit enough, and so she's bleeding out and then just pretends to be dead. So that when he gets up to try to walk away, she grabs the gun and just fucking shoots him.
Yes.
And it sucks because it ends right there, and I was like, I needed the, a 1 week later, and her just being like, you know what, fuck you, to her husband or something.
Yeah. It was such a girl boss movie. I loved it.
It was a good, satisfying, like, yeah, fuck that.
But it was way too long. It like literally dragged, and they kept doing the same scenes again.
Yeah, it was the same bit.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
A very slow lead up to like a 5-minute scene.
Yeah. There were a couple cool shots, just like when she's like looking at the neighbor.
Yeah.
And the lighting and everything, but everything else was pretty normal. 3. Acting wasn't bad.
Yeah, Yeah, I think
Pretty standard.
Everyone did a good job. The main lady, she did a great job.
Yeah, I believe that the husband was this workaholic piece of shit. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I say piece of shit, but workaholic where it's like he only kept. He's like, my work.
Yeah.
You're being crazy. I wouldn't really say scares.
Not scary at all, I don't think.
That's in 3.
Yeah, it's the middle of the road. Okay. It's that guy, which.
1.
Yeah. Serial killer. The main antagonist is actually the husband.
Oh yeah, true. Gore. I mean, you see a cut off head.
Yeah. He stabs or slices the other girl, so maybe a 2. Honestly, you probably see more blood in this movie than most movies.
Yeah, I think I gave like Mungo 2.
I don't know if I'd watch it again. Once you know the twist, it is kind of killed. It kills the whole movie.
I'd say 2. It's again, a lot of these is like, you know, Halloween party or something, or like spooky movie marathon with like a group of people or something, maybe like.
Oh, you know what this movie reminded us both of? I think you were the one who said it. The Invisible Man.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
yeah.
The Invisible Man
Yeah,
vibes.
but the Invisible Man to this day, I feel like did it the best.
Oh, for
Where
sure.
you're like, oh wow.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
Like except with the interesting thing about the Invisible Man is you as an audience member know she's not crazy, but
you know from an outside perspective, if you saw someone
yeah, you'd be like, oh yeah, she crazy.
Yeah, you'd be like,
She crazy as hell. So the next one is an interesting one, Hellboy the Crooked Man, which just came out. And being a huge fan of Hellboy, I was very curious to see how this would come out. I've read a few of the Hellboy comic books. Super fan of the Del Toro movies. I know, this was based off the short story, The Crooked Man. Didn't really need to be a whole movie. Having said that it's adapted from a short story, this movie definitely feels like a literal episode from a TV show that we're missing, because right from the get-go, it starts with them on a train having already caught a monster, and they're back on their way back to the BPRD, and then this whole other side journey happens where they, it's very established, and they don't really go into too much, where you're like, I feel like this is like the second movie, or like, episode 3 of
like
a season
finale of season 1.
And so there is that aspect to it, where if you've never seen anything Hellboy related, you're kind of like, well, okay, they're just kind of throwing me in here.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of.
You probably couldn't watch this movie without knowing about Hellboy, because they don't explain anything.
It would 100%, even if you just watched the last Hellboy movie with David Harbour, would help you understand it a little bit more, because even that movie has the origin of Hellboy. Yeah. And so it's like, why was this made? It
doesn't feel like a standalone movie.
And I said this in my Hellboy the Crooked Man review, where I was like, well, why was this made? Because it's straight to DVD, streaming, whatever. It doesn't follow any continuity. So it's like, well, why was this made? Because I see no reason for it to be made. It's low budget. There's really no like high profile actors, nothing. So I'm just like, well, why? Because at that rate, I think this would have been better if they tried to do like a YouTube fan project, where it's like, 8 30-minute episodes or something with this concept. I think when people hate on it, they're being a tad bit ridiculous, because this isn't the worst movie ever made.
It's the worst Hellboy movie I've ever seen,
Yeah.
but it's still a good movie.
Yeah, of the 4 Hellboy movies we have now, this is the worst one. But people were like, this is like going to be one of the biggest pieces of shit ever made, and I was like, no, it's low budget, and it definitely is all over the place. Not the worst movie. I mean, obviously the Hellboy prosthetics could be better. Some of the CGI is really, really bad. And I feel like the movie just goes on way too fucking long, because it's just kind of like introduces you to this thing, now this thing. Oh, it seems like it's the end of the movie. Nope, whole nother 45 minutes, and it's just like.
Yeah.
Now I can appreciate that it introduced more about Hellboy's mom.
Yeah, I like
and that lore, because they've not done that in the other ones, but everything else was just kind of like the Crooked Man. I mean, that is a real thing from the book, but
He looked goofy close up. He looked better far away.
yeah, I mean that is how the Crooked Man looks like in the book, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't look stupid.
Yeah.
Um, definitely they could have redesigned it or yeah, kept him at a distance because they only do like one shot where he's at a distance and you're like, "Ooh, this is creepy," and then it just zooms in on his face. So I'm like,
I think you said he looked like the leprechaun.
yeah, he looks like
Those
Leprechaun from
movies,
Leprechaun.
yeah, that's exactly how he looked. It looked like makeup. It did not look like a real thing.
Well, and they did some cool effects and stuff, but overall, I was like,
yeah, a couple of cool effects. You really like the one where he's going through the
yes,
wall.
the wall where he gets pushed through the wall and he's like, and then gets sucked back and the wall reforms. I was like, okay, that's neat. I liked that. When they had him spinning through the hallway, it was practical effects. It wasn't CGI. They actually had I don't know how they did it, but or at least the CGI looked that good. But he's like spinning through the hallway. I was like, okay, I can appreciate that.
I love the part where the witch went from like a raccoon and then she went back into her witch body.
Oh yeah, and that fake skin.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was cool.
I think there was another cool scene when they were fighting with that snake that looked kind of cool. That snake that was like going inside the witch lady.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
I like the idea of like because there's angels and demons stuff, how they holied just like a shovel, and the shovel's like glowing with like a cross. I was like, okay, that's kind of neat.
Cinematography. I liked the coloring of the movie. It felt like comic booky.
Yeah, well, it was very like whitish, grayish, bluey.
They did whatever filter they did on it. Hellboy, his red stands out and looks so good.
Yeah, and I don't think the Hellboy costume looks bad. There's just
it doesn't look as good as others.
No, there's some moments where it's his chest makeup. Well, he's clearly wearing a suit.
Yeah.
Where it looks really bad, where like he'll bend his arm and it's clearly like rubber.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, And there's one part where his tail's CGI and it looks really bad. The Samaritan gun looked fine, but then when they did the shooting sounds, it kind of looked really bad. That's more just nitpicking, but it's too long.
Too long.
It's all over the fucking place.
It's not standalone, so.
No.
So.
Well, it's standalone, but it feels like it's not.
Yeah. So what do you think? A little bit better cinematography than middle of the road, maybe 3.5, 4.
I'd give it a 3.
3.
I'd give it a 3. Very, very standard. So. Again, I don't know. I don't know how people from Appalachia really sound, but it really annoyed me that all of them were like, "You in the wrong place, Mister.
Yeah,
you shouldn't have come here." And I'm like,
the one witch.
Oh
witch,
my god, yeah.
So obnoxious. It was
She's
like
like, "Hey, yeah, you shouldn't have came here, boy, with your witch wife." It's like, I honestly, I really liked Hellboy's voice.
I think he did good Hellboy.
I was like, okay, damn, he sounds like gruff.
Yeah. Not really scary. They had the dead people come back to life and chase them like zombies.
Yeah. Just storyline 2. The Crooked Man.
He did not look great. This big spider looked cool. The little zombies look kind of cool.
I don't remember there really being gore.
I don't think there's any gore.
I'll do one. The only reason I would rewatch this is if I was doing a Hellboy movie marathon.
Yes, like
1.
Yeah.
Okay, stop motion. Okay, so this is one where it's basically about a woman trying to finish up a stop motion movie, but starts getting crazier and crazier, and it's like her stop motions are now dictating her life. And it's this actress, she was in Speak No Evil, but it turns out she's in like a lot of like low budget Shudder movies, but overall I thought it was pretty good. Honestly, what saves this movie is the stop motion scenes, in my personal opinion.
Oh, I agree. The stop motion saves it completely. Because Nothing else in the movie outside of the stop motion is very creepy or
Yeah.
scary.
And there is definitely a lot of like symbolism stuff, but some to me, a cardinal sin that this movie does is they do the whole, oh, interesting character shows up, like basically it's the twist that the person in the movie that's talking to the main character is actually dead or a ghost, and they do
like in the Boogeyman movie.
Yeah, they do the most horrendous job in this movie where it's so obvious from the beginning that this girl is a ghost.
Yeah.
Because she gets in an apartment in an abandoned apartment building to work on her project, and this little girl's immediately there, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's not real. She's a ghost, whatever. And towards the end, they do the thing where she like kills the little girl, and she comes back, and she's like, why would you do that? And I'm like, was this supposed to be a twist? Because it was so obvious.
Well, yeah, because they even have scenes where the little girl is walking down a hallway where there's other people.
Yeah, and they don't
nobody
acknowledge her.
acknowledges her.
Yeah, so it's like it's so obvious, and the stop motion is really good in this movie and really creepy, like really gross, especially when she starts using like dead animal and stuff. You're like, wow, this is crazy. I kind of hated the ending.
Me too.
Where it's like her in the stop motion, and then she goes into the chest, and it just ends, because I was like, okay, so now you're trying to be extremely artsy.
Yes.
Towards the end. Okay, it's like they're almost the reverse Uno, where it's almost like generic horror movie, and then they're like last 5 minutes artsy, whereas like most movies try to be really artsy, and then the last minute is like horror, oh my god, monster.
Yeah.
And so that was annoying. The acting overall wasn't too bad. Didn't really care for the little girl, but
the symbolism with the mom dying and the little girl showing up, and her not really, it's seeming like she's not able to make her own ideas, which she was, because the little girl wasn't real. It was I thought it was an interesting take, an interesting story, but it just wasn't well done.
Interesting enough where I was like, again, this could have been a lot shorter.
Yeah.
To get to the point. I 100% do not. The most unrealistic thing in that movie was how she overpowered 2 grown adults in 2 seconds, while she's already crazy and like has like ripped out a piece of her leg, so she's like handicapped and is able to overpower a grown man and a grown woman.
Well, yeah, and she looks like she might be like 100 pounds.
Yeah.
5'1", 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And the 2 other people look a lot bigger than her. And I was like, yeah, I don't know about that.
I was just like,
It didn't seem real.
it seems a bit unbelievable. But they're like, yeah, she's just crazy. She got crazy strength. But yeah, like the only reason I remember this movie is just because of those stop motion scenes where I was like, oh, I can tell where the budget went.
Oh, yeah.
The budget went to that.
For sure. Maybe a little bit above for cinematography for the stop motion.
Yes.
Maybe a
I would
4?
say 4.
Yeah.
Only because of the stop motion. Honestly, I would give this that.
Yeah, I'm not remembering it being scared. There was creepy scenes where she's like kind of turning into the clay world, and it's like chasing her. It's a little scary.
Yeah, some of those scenes, I wish they would have had a little bit more of that, because there's the one where like her legs are made out of clay. She's like tripping.
That one was pretty cool.
Or the ghoul guys outside of her door, or like at one point when you actually see him, and I was like, okay, this is creepy.
I think 3.
Basically, I wouldn't even say. I mean, 3 is the standard, but it's getting a 3 because a lot of it falls flat, but then it goes back up to a 3 thanks to those parts.
Yeah.
No, 2.
Not really very imaginative.
No. The claymation monster was pretty creepy.
Super cool.
So 4. Gore.
She cuts her own leg open.
Oh yeah, that part was pretty intense. Shoves the thing on her friend's throat. When she overpowers her boyfriend and the girl, and she sticks the tripod on her neck.
How does she kill her boyfriend?
Well, he falls down the stairs, and then she like closes his nose, and he's like, "Arr."
Okay. That's probably 3 or 4. 3.5 maybe.
Yeah. Again, only rewatchable because of the stop motion.
I don't know if I'd want to rewatch it. Maybe 2.
2. Terrifier 3, which I've done a review for itself on my YouTube channel, so this one might be a little quick, but
Yeah. And we already did Terrifier 2.
yeah, so Terrifier 3, in my personal opinion, not as good as Terrifier 2. It basically rehashes the same plot from Terrifier 2, which is honestly a little aggravating because with Terrifier 2, they're like, oh my god, you know, magic sword, all this. And then in Terrifier 3, they're just like, oh my god, it's the sword again. We need the sword. And then
She basically has a new family to get murdered.
yeah, a new family get murdered. And then they establish more of her dad lore with like how he could like, he had premonitions about the future. But I was like, it's really just rehashing the story from Terrifier 2. And the one thing that I feel like these movies don't do well is that it doesn't blend really well because it's like, it literally feels like two movies combined where it's like the Sienna, her story, and then it just scene cuts to Art the Clown killing someone for 6 minutes, and then scene cuts back to like Sienna and blah blah blah, and I just feel like it didn't mesh well. But obviously super gory, the goriest of the three.
I think this is way gorier than Terrifier 2.
Yeah,
right?
well, way gorier than most movies I've seen. Acting was fine. You know, that girl that plays Sienna does a good job. There's the over the top podcast girl, the dumbass, which is pretty believable.
I thought that was a funny touch to it. I actually thought one of the funniest scenes or best scenes in this whole movie is when the podcast girl is with her boyfriend, and he's like, "You want to do it with Art the Clown," and like saying something like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, "I just want to meet him," and then he's like, Art the Clown is literally listening from the doorway. They don't see
and he's
him.
like,
it's so funny. I thought that was a really funny
oh, because she
scene.
even says, I want to know what it felt like to be like looking in the eyes of Art the Clown while you're being victimized. And he's like,
yeah, it was really funny.
And so then later on when he's like about, murdering her, and he's like, you're like, this is like so dark comedy,
It
like
is
messed
a very
up.
dark comedy, but
I mean, and then what sucks is like there's a lot of setup where you're like, great, now I gotta wait for Terrifier 4, I guess, because they set up like there's an angel that's like holding a demon captive to build, to build like angelic weapons or something. I was like, well, hold on, what?
Yeah,
can we?
Really
cool imagery, and I was like, can we get more of that, please? Like, what is that? What's happening? And they've established now that like the next movie, Sienna will like go to hell to save her cousin, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of setup. Like what?
Yeah. In this movie, they introduced her in the last movie, but she really had a big part in this. The lady with the messed up face.
Oh yeah, Victoria, whatever.
She's probably more fucked up than Art the Clown.
Yeah, well, they actually finally kind of go over that. There's like a demon possessing. Well, it's weird because the girl Victoria had the demon in her, but then they're also alluding that Art the Clown also is like a demon.
Yeah. That's
like unkillable, because that is something that's going to get real old with these movies, is that if you make it just like with Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, the problem is they kept making movies, and it's like, well, what the fuck is the point if they can't die?
Yeah.
Like, there needs to be a definitive end, otherwise it's just, what's the fuck's the point? And so with Art the Clown, I'm like, you gotta do something where you finally kill his ass or something, because they've established magic swords and all this stuff. So, they allude that the brother dies, but they don't actually show him die, so who knows?
Yeah, I think you were right in the movie when you said it's a fake out, that he's not really dead.
Yeah, just because you're telling me they're going to show everyone else getting killed, but not him?
One of the main characters.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay.
Granted, they kill the dad off screen, but you see his body.
Yeah, you see his body.
But...
with these movies, though, I will say, because of the it does a great job of just this like fantasy 80s vibe.
Yeah.
With the film grain and everything.
What did you put the Terrifier 2 as?
3.5.
I feel like it needs a 3.5 as well.
Acting, pretty standard, pretty normal. Pretty horrific, especially when those kids get blown up and the parents are like screaming.
That's pretty wild, yeah.
I would say it's about the same. 3 scares. Again, it's not really scary. It's just horrifyingly gory where you're like, oh god, I feel tense.
Yeah, that's kind of. So.
3.
Not to make it have the exact same thing, but it is kind of
Yeah.
the same movie.
Storyline, it's just a fucking repeat of Terrifier 2.
Put it a little bit less than Terrifier 2.
Yeah.
4, so
Okay.
give it like a
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. Art the Clown, you know.
But now we have to add the other lady in too, because she's.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was the duo now.
So I think if we say 4, then.
3.5.
So say 4.5.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, because she was actually really fucking creepy.
The part where she does that one.
I know. Ugh,
so
God.
disturbing.
They're really, yeah. Gore. This is gonna be a 5.
This better be the goriest movie
Yeah.
I've seen.
This is a 5 on the gore scale. Rewatchability. I would rewatch it again.
Oh yeah. It's like a Halloween slasher vibe.
Yeah, I'd probably rewatch it for a Halloween, but I probably wouldn't rewatch it just because I want to, because it's pretty gross.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've been excited.
Boy. Oh my god. Okay, well, this is probably gonna take the spot for number 1 stinker on the fucking list.
Well, so Real Evil, did it just have a full 0? I think we need to give Real Evil a half point on something, so it's not tied. Real Evil was a little bit more enjoyable than this one.
Then you know what? I'll just go here and give it a.
In memory of like teenage boys wanting to watch this.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just outright do this already, and then we can discuss.
Probably the worst movie I've ever seen.
Yeah,
worse than Unfriended.
This is a movie. Honestly, this is a movie where it's so crazy because even when a movie's bad, I'm usually like, okay, I can take the time to sit through it. This was a movie where we basically almost started just playing on our phones, and I was like, we might just turn this off.
Yeah.
Because I actually don't give a shit, because it's such a disgrace to me as an audience member, me as a consumer. Luckily this was free, but apparently at one point it wasn't. If I had to fucking pay for this, I'd actually probably be mad enough to go like find who made this movie and contact them and be like, you owe me fucking my money back.
Well, is it free? Because this is on Shudder. Shudder is not free.
Oh, was that on Shudder?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then it's not free. Man, okay, well then Shudder, you should be paying out to your customers for having this on your fucking service and as an option. This is I don't know whose Nepo baby is friends with whoever owns Shudder, but this is clearly a Nepo baby college, high school fucking fan film that has dirt on someone at Shudder and is on there because this movie is so stupid. I mean, yeah, you think a movie like Unfriended is stupid? At least in Unfriended, it gave you enough of like a ha-ha vibe where you could definitely watch that with your friends and be like, okay, it's stupid but fun. This movie is definitely written by some dumbass who thinks they're actually being really cool and saying something, but actually saying a whole lot of nothing and wasting your time for almost an hour and a half. Because
I want to say too, like, we've watched a lot of movies where it's like the whole movie takes place in one spot, one set.
Yeah.
And I feel like to do that, I don't know if you'd call it a trope, but to do that premise where it's like one setting for the whole movie, you have to have a really good story, really good acting, because your set is doing nothing for you. Well, and I think a lot of times when we watch these type of movies, people don't understand that when they make the movie. They're like...
Well, and we watched, like last year, we watched that movie, like He's Watching or whatever, where it takes place in that bathroom. Remember? And overall,
okay, yeah.
I was like, it's pretty, like, stupid. But at least
the acting was
yeah,
good.
well, and they did interesting stuff like, oh, there, I can reach my hand out, there's a doggy, and then, like, it's a man's voice. And you're like, whoa, like, at least something. This movie has nothing fucking going for it. It's the worst acting, worst film, so fucking stupid, and it's like trying to say a weird message about like feminism and
I don't know,
like being like anti-alt, not even alt-right, like anti-conservative maybe. Like
I don't know. It does a lot of like it tries to throw out edgy stuff. Like there's a whole incest storyline with the not the nephew.
Oh yeah, well,
stepbrother.
It's stepbrother and stepsister.
So I guess it's not but they do that whole, and there's a lot of date rape, and then there's people being in the closet, gay.
Well, it's
a lot of like weird.
It's like some stupid college kid who's in like a civil ethics class or whatever was like, oh yeah, I'm about to make the most message movie ever, and every character is a fucking caricature of another. Like, there's the stereotypical jock, there's the closeted gay guy, there's the conservative pipelined womanizer red-pilled guy, there's the drug abusing slut goth girl, and then there's the introverted like kind of gothy girl, then there's like, you know, the preppy girl, and like everyone was such an over the top caricature where it's like, have you never written characters or thought of characters before? And it's just so annoying because the
actor was the red pill guy.
Yeah, he actually was believable. And what annoys me with this fucking movie is that you're watching the movie because they set it up as a mockumentary where it's like, we found this footage, we can't find the culprit still, and they're like, it's like you're watching a movie that was made by the person who trapped all these people here, and it's so like, it'll cut between like this person is on in the movie is saying something, and then it cuts to a black screen, and the person who made the movie is like, you see that? Are they telling the truth? Hee hee, liars.
Well, you know what I found really interesting about this movie is the setup and the premise that you even see in the preview that we watched. It sounds interesting, where it's like, it's almost like Saw coded, where it's like, all you have to do is come in this room and tell the truth, and then you don't have to worry about anything getting leaked or you getting hurt. And so that premise alone could be really well done. But, and so when we watched the preview for it, we were like, or the trailer, we were like, oh, let's give it a chance, you know?
Well, and the killer or whatever, the person filming the thing is already crazy enough where I thought it was going to be like, maybe kind of like a Saw, where it's like, the more and more they don't tell the truth, the more somehow like they get tortured or something. But they're not even getting tortured. They just sit in the fucking room, and
one guy gets tortured, but he's literally
the
only one. But he's stupid enough.
But even his thing doesn't make sense because he sits there and is like, oh yeah, like I don't fall for just like easy stuff. And then immediately a hole opens up and it's like a girl's face, and she's like, put your dick in here, I'll suck it. And he's like, okay. Even though the whole movie he's like, oh, I don't fall for dumb shit like that. Yeah. And yeah, you're just like, what? Like, you know, and then like the whole reason why she killed her like mentor, and I was just like, this is so stupid. It is very stupid. And it just kind of
made Unfriended look really good.
Yeah, and it just really fucking annoyed me that like they almost make it seem supernatural, where it's like, there's the one really annoying girl where her stepbrother like raped her or whatever, but she's like looking at the camera and she's like,
her acting was ridiculous.
She's like, you wanted this, didn't you?
Oh yeah, she's like going.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, chill. Yeah. Your friend's paying you fucking $50 to make this movie.
Well, but she didn't even know it was her stepbrother who did that to her. She thought it was someone else.
Yeah, well, she thought it was that MAGA guy or like her friend, his friend or whatever. And then when it turns out it's her stepbrother, that's when she's like, oh god, what the heck? And you know, you could have had those crazy moments, but it's just so like, and then the goth girl who's like, yeah, I just sleep with anybody and do drugs. I'm the bimbo goth girl. And I'm like,
she's like, I'm the drug dealer.
Yeah, like they just set up everyone to be the most stupid caricature where someone making a movie goes, let me think of the most stereotypical people I could think of and make them into a character. Yeah. And then they do the weird supernatural like mood lighting, you know, where it's like when they're lying or whatever, it's like purple light, red light, ooh. And I was just like, God, this isn't even a so bad it's good. No. This is a so bad it's bad, and I hope this gets wiped off streaming services forever, off the planet Earth, because the fact that an hour and a half of my limited human life was wasted is so terrible.
Unacceptable.
Just piece of shit.
So 0 out of 0.
Yeah, 0 on all fronts. Just the dumbest, because it also looked like it's supposed to be like this like locked fucking room, and then you find out that it's like one piece of fucking plywood for a wall that the girl's sitting behind, where I'm like, okay, so if someone really wanted to just kick it down, it looks like they could definitely kick a hole through it. Yeah. And so they're like, I can't get out, oh my god.
Yeah, it's not like, a saw trap at all.
No, it's so stupid. So stupid ass movie. I hate it.
So you don't recommend it?
Oh, I definitely don't. If you couldn't tell by now, I 100% don't recommend this movie. So that's going to be it for part 2. I'm going to go watch Smile 2 and probably add it to both of these just to add. Obviously, it's supposed to be 31 movies. We watched a little bit more. So this will be it for part 2, and part 3 will be out shortly. So thank you for watching. I'm out.